Christopher.
Thank you. Good morning, beloved community. Let's take a few breaths together, shall we? Let it all out. Exhale first. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. Another deep breath in. And let it go. One more deep breath in. And let it go. And so good morning again. If you don't know me, I'm Reverend Elisha Christopher. I'm the spiritual director of the Center for Spiritual Living here in Santa Cruz. I do use they and them pronouns, which means instead of saying he, you say they. Instead of him, you say them. Instead of his, you say theirs. Practice it sometime. Please. My ancestors come to us from all over the world. Those that we know immigrated here came through Ireland, Scotland, Austria, and Holland, and I do have some ancestors indigenous to the plains of North America. Well, it's February. Today is February 1st, right? Yeah. So today is Imbolc in the pagan calendar, which is one of the cross-quarter holidays, which means it's the point between winter solstice and spring equinox. And in some traditions, Imbolc is actually the first day of spring. It's sort of pre-spring. It's also the middle point of winter, depending on how you're measuring. So welcome to the middle of winter and the beginning of spring, which is sort of what it feels like in America right now. It definitely feels like we're in the depths of winter, politically, socially, in a lot of ways. But I also feel like the beginning of the spring is starting to show up, right? How many of you were out just about anywhere on Friday, especially downtown Santa Cruz? Anybody? Okay, the thing that keeps bringing me to tears, I may cry just talking about it, but the thing that really caught me was all of the high school and middle school kids who ditched school, who participated in the strike, who were out in force in Santa Cruz. And downtown Santa Cruz, there were hundreds of our young people were out protesting, ICE out, Immigrants Make America Great. I mean, these kids were here for it. And it was so inspiring to see, right? And that energy is rising up all over the place right now, right? It's also February, which also means it's Black History Month. And we're going to be putting some Black History New Thought resources in your e-news this month, so look out for those. We'll get some little history tidbits for you. But you know, one of the things that has been on my mind this last week, and it's come up in a number of my social feeds as well, just to start with a little Black history as part of our conversation. You know, a lot of what's going on with ICE and the ICE raids and the policing and the door-to-door stuff that's happening, right? What is the first metaphor that almost all of us go to? This is Nazi Germany all over again, right? We also have to acknowledge that what's happening is also a little more homegrown, right? In the 1700s up until 1860, there were slave patrols, right? Which were government-licensed militias, mostly white men given the authority to go door to door and reinforce the social norm of the time, which was to look for anyone who was in hiding, to make sure no one had escaped slavery, to make sure no one was harboring anyone, to make sure that the people were afraid enough to keep the system in status quo, right? When the slave patrols ended is basically when we birthed the policing in the United States, which is just to continue that same system of oppression, but in a new way. And that's how you get the reinforcement of Jim Crow and all of those things. Right? And so we just have to acknowledge for a moment that policing in the United States has its history in slave patrols. And that what we're witnessing with ICE is a direct outgrowth of that. Right? And we can point to Europe, we can point to Germany in the 20s and be like, they did that and we brought it over here. But let's acknowledge for a moment that what's happening is that the system that's been in place all along is just getting stronger and fiercer and more powerful and seeking to continue to reinforce these systems of oppression that have been at work in this country for 400-something years, right? And so I say that because we have to recognize that what we are witnessing is nothing new. But what the system is rising up into a new, in a new form, right? And that it's also rising up in a way that is becoming visible enough that we are all starting to pay attention. You know, I hate to say the quiet part out loud, but when they start killing white people in the streets, suddenly America's paying attention in a whole new way, right? And one of the things we talk about here is everything is God, right? It's all one thing. There's only one of us here. And this work for freedom and justice that we are working on in this nation right now, this work is about freedom for all, which is the promise that this country gave us. And one of my teachers and mentors, her name's Dr. Tracy Brown, and she talks, we had a conversation a while back about the Black experience of being in America, that America gives a promise of freedom and justice for all. And then it breaks that promise and has broken that promise over and over and over again. And one of the things I think we can all learn from the Black experience is how to say, yeah, you broke that promise, but I'm going to hold you to it anyways. I'm going to call you up to it. I'm going to fight for it. Because the promise says I'm somebody. The promise says I have rights, which means we all have rights. And that what's rising up right now is the reflection that's been in all of us of this thing that we've been holding of in many ways the passivity of keeping the program going, right? Because the system operates on our complacency and our participation, right? And in order for the great big things to change, we have to make the sacrifices ourselves. We have to be willing to stand up and fight and remember that until all of us are free, none of us are free. Right? And this story's rising up, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. But the thing that has been on my mind recently is for us to remember that we really are all one. And that the story that's taking place out there, that's happening for any one of us, is also happening for all of us all the time. Right? We witnessed to the killings of Alex Pretty and Renee Good in Minneapolis in the last month. Same place, almost a block, less than a mile away from where George Floyd was killed. Now, I am one who believes that there's metaphors hidden everywhere, and that it's all one thing, and that if you're willing to look, the story is in plain sight. I'm a big fan of name meanings, and looking for the meanings of names that might be hidden in plain sight. So, when George Floyd was killed, murdered, I looked up his name, the meaning of his name. The name George means farm worker. The name Floyd means gray hair. So a gray-haired, older farm worker, let's reverse that 400 years and just think about what we're pointing to. And then Derek Chauvin was his murderer. The name Derek means world ruler. Chauvin means bald head. Also is very homophonous to the word chauvinism. So, bald-headed ruler of the world killed gray-haired farm worker. Do you hear the story? Right? That which was squished and put down by the system. Very clear to me. If you're looking for the metaphor, if you're looking for the story, it's hidden in plain sight. This was the system taking down and oppressing. Well, then when Renee Good got killed, murdered, I looked up her name. Renee Nicole, good means something like awakening, resurrection, and benevolence. The awakening, the resurrection, the benevolence was killed by a masked ICE agent, by a faceless system that is frozen in its place, sought to squash the resurrection, the awakening, the good. But what was activated instead was the awakening, the resurrection, and the good. Right? And so let these names, let these stories remind us that there's something greater at work here, that that's a bigger story that's happening in plain sight. And it might be coded in names, it might be hidden in systems and in laws and in ways of doing and being, but there's something else that's happening. And if you look around the country, folks, people are rising up, people are waking up, we're starting to get it. Look how much protest, look how much activation there is happening in response to what's happening in Minneapolis. We're starting to recognize that until as long as one of us is not free, none of us are free. That our freedom is our inherent birthright, not just as Americans, but as divine beings, as citizens of planet Earth, as part of the body of the mother. Freedom, expression, life, love, liberty, these are our God-given rights. This is what the universe birthed us to experience. All dis-ease, all war, all domination, all of the pain in the world is a symptom of a separation from our awareness of the sanctity and the sacredness of our life. All of this is happening because humanity as a whole has lost track of what is sacred, of life itself, the earth, the spark of individuality. And we're in this moment where humanity seems to be bursting at the seams with expression, right? Gender is expressing itself in whole new ways in the world, that people are finding new voices, that our creativity and our love is rising up in whole new ways. We are on the verge of some kind of an evolution with all of our technology and all the things that are happening. We are on the verge of something so much more, right? This theme, our theme this month is embracing the edge. And I really do believe that humanity is on the edge of an evolutionary moment. All of our ways of loving, all of our ways of expressing, all of our ways of doing and being are growing towards a more compassionate, more expressive, more loving, more inclusive world. I think that's the code that's rising up everywhere. And it's the systems, the old ways of being, the old stories, the old codes that are resisting the evolution are rising up in this moment, trying to hold on to life, getting their last thrashes in before the new system takes over, before the truth begins to emerge more and more and more, right? And we've talked a little bit about the Chinese lunar calendar, and that we're finishing up the year of the snake, right? We've got about another week and a half left of the year of the snake before we go into the year of the horse. And in the Chinese calendar, there's also elements to each one. So this year was a wooden snake. Next year is a fire horse. I just love the metaphors. They're available for me everywhere I look. Because the wooden snake sees the fire horse coming. What does fire do to wood? It burns it up, right? And what does a snake do when it's threatened, but it lashes out? It bites, it fights, right? The year of the snake is reaching the end of its time. This year has been a year of transformation. It's been a year of shedding. It's been a year of crawling on our bellies, folks. But giddy up, the year of the horse is on its way, right? And we take that fire energy, we burn up that wooden snake, we burn up what was, and I feel that at the same level, the patriarchy, the system, the oppression, all of that is like that serpent that is lashing out, knowing that it is under threat, knowing that it's not going to survive this, so it's doing everything it can to fight in its last breath to maintain some power. But we have to remember that there is something greater that's trying to happen here. Evolution is rising up. Compassion is rising up. Love is rising up. We are waking up. And the system cannot survive awakening. That's why there's a war on wokeness. Because the system thrives on people being asleep. If we wake up, the system cannot survive. Right? Yes, I agree. Which means that we all have to step out onto the edge. You know, I follow a number of ministers in various denominations across the country on most of my socials, and there's been a lot of clergy of various denominations putting messages out to other clergy, say, get your wills together, folks. We need you to step out. You might need to put your bodies in front of someone else's. There's an edge there. And we have to decide, each one of us, what's truly important and what we're willing to stand for and what we're willing to participate in and what we're willing to perpetuate. But I think each one of us, every single day right now, is being called to the edge of maybe what we know how to do, or what we believe we're capable of, or what we think is possible, or what kind of change or healing we believe could actually happen. We have got to find a way to cross that edge and take a step further than we've ever gone before. Because it's up to us to call upon the healing that is necessary. And it starts within each one of us. When we remember that all of life is sacred, when we remember that there's only one of us here, when we remember that there is no other, that there is no enemy, that all is God, that all is spirit, that all is one, it's that consciousness. It's only that consciousness that's going to break through the hatred and the fear and the separation that's on the other side of those masks. Because I tell you, friends, since the masked ICE agents have been in the street, have you noticed that the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and all those other folks haven't been out? They got masks and a license to continue doing what they were doing. They were recruited, right? And so we have to understand that perhaps on the other side of the mask, there is someone who feels so incredibly separate from life, from humanity, from the good, that they're willing to kill it. And that the only way we awaken that life, that love, and humanity is by shining it back, by looking for it in the individual, by looking into those eyes behind the masks and looking for God, looking for love, looking for our family, because we are one family, all of us. And it's love that has to heal this family. Let's breathe and let it go. Yeah, do that again. Take a deep breath in and let it go. And take another breath. As we breathe together, my friends, I invite us to go within and connect with the idea that there is something greater than we are that is breathing these bodies. For indeed, what I know is that there is only one life living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe, one life shining the stars and spiraling the galaxies and growing the trees, one life in every human body, one life as the body of the earth herself. And so I claim, know, and recognize and declare in this very moment that each one of us here in this room, that every person on this planet, that every person who can hear these words, that we are divinity, that we are evolution, that we are love, that we are the way that the Spirit of the living God brings itself into the world for the purpose of bringing about greater good. And so I know that what is happening in our nation, what is happening in our world, is the rising up of all that needs to be healed, is the making visible of all that has been invisible, is bringing to the surface all that has been hidden, so that we can now see what is. We can say yes to it or we can say no to it. We can decide which path we want to take. We can decide which patterns and which stories continue. This is our moment of choosing, because I believe that humanity as a whole is on a moment of evolution, that we are being invited to awaken. We are being invited to remember. We are being invited to know that love is indeed the greatest force in the universe, and that we may see hatred, fear, and division rising up in the world, but we must anchor ourselves in the knowing that there is something so much greater available to us, that that power that lives within us, the thing that is breathing us, is greater than any conditions, is greater than any circumstances, that the very presence that is speaking these words and hearing them is the very presence that has spun galaxies and created worlds, and therefore we can create a new reality. We can create new choices. We can create new systems. We can create new ways of doing and being together. And we start right here. We start with each other in this community, in Santa Cruz. We start in our state. We start by building webs of mutual support. We start by holding each other. We start by taking care of our neighbors. We start by speaking up. We start by standing up. We are being called forth to be the light of the world. We are being called to be the peacemakers. We are being called to open our hearts. To open our hearts so wide that no one and no thing is excluded from our love. And so we open. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this beloved community, for this energy that's rising up in our world. I'm grateful that the more of us is calling us, and that we are being invited to bring about a new way. And so let's return to that breath. Feel ourselves being breathed by something greater than we are. We let go. We let God. And so it is.